Hey folks, how are you? It's Cheryl Arkeson coming at you this afternoon, the 19th of March. Can't believe it's the 19th of March already. Oh my God. So good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you might be joining us from, or whenever you're joining us, whether it's live on Instagram or on the follow-up on YouTube. I am, as I said, Cheryl Arkeson, and this is the Quilters Playcation Adventure Sewalong Rainbow Edition for 2024, week 11. Week 11. I'm a couple minutes late because I just rescued a cat. Who knew I could do that? I'm a dog person, not a cat person, but we were walking the dog, and all of a sudden, two cats were in a fight, and one cat chased the other cat up a tree, and then it couldn't come down. The one came down, but not the other one. So I ended up climbing the tree and getting it out. So, yeah, that's why I'm a couple minutes late. Hello in Florida from 90 to 70 today. Well, we were 15, 16 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is Fahrenheit. Yesterday, but that's well above zero. Well above zero. That is lovely weather. And then we're supposed to get a snowstorm tonight. So, yeah. Big changes all around for everybody with the weather. What else is new? I'm home. My son is still home. He did manage kind of 2 sort of half days of school last week. So, progress. Progress. We've had company the last 3 weekends, and I finally have my sewing room back, so I'm very excited about that. I don't know if you've been checking out my regular posts on Instagram. If you haven't, you should, because I've just started an absolutely epic sewing project. It is so out of my comfort zone. I'm loving it. I'm loving the challenge, but it is a challenge. It is a challenge. So make sure you check out those posts. Yeah. So where are people joining us from? Oh, from Germany. Hello. My nephews and brother-in-law and sister-in-law are going there this summer. They're very excited. We've got Wisconsin, 32 and now 47. So yeah, you're about the same as us. Not so warm. It's still spring. Winter's not over yet. I know tomorrow's technically the first day of spring, but spring won't be here for another month. Every year we forget, at least here. So, where we got Chesterfield, UK. Chesterfield. I'm sorry, but that makes me laugh. It makes me giggle because I'm Canadian. Yeah. So today's block. I'm digressing in so many ways today. Today's block, I think I've done this a couple of times now where I have a different block in mind, and then as soon as I see all the blocks together, I decide it needs to be different. So we're here back in the middle of a row if you're doing it in rows. And because I am, that's how I'm envisioning what has to come next. And so the original block I had, which I'll just use another month, so no worries, it didn't really fit with the block above it. So I switched it out to have something with a little bit of a different balance to it. So you can see the last few weeks blocks, and then this is today's block. It's not tiny. It's not a little tiny rainbow in there. It just has lots of background on it. And I felt that the quilt kind of needed that at this point, is a little bit of rest for our eyes. So you can see it's a really simple block. I've used scraps for the center. I'll talk about that when we get to the making of it, and then have just done like kind of log cabin-y strips around to frame it up, and then trimmed it to the size I want. Pretty straightforward and done for that. So I think it adds a nice little bit of rest, and I kind of really like that change in scale for the rainbow, for just that little kind of square. So that's what we're going to do. So let's bring you over to the cutting table. Ooh. Don't worry, we're fine. We'll bring you over to the cutting table. See there, you can see more of what's going on there with our rainbow blocks. Yay. And I'm gonna turn you around say hello to our ladies. And then I'm gonna point you downwards so we can see the table, and zoom in just a little bit there. So what do we need for today's blocks? I'm just going with scraps. If you don't have scraps, you can just go with little strips of each of your fabrics. You kind of want to have all of the fabrics in it, but they don't have to be in the same proportions, the same amount, or even in rainbow order. I don't think I'll go in rainbow order for this today, but we'll see. And then you're going to need, you know, a larger strip or stripsa of your background fabric to kind of border this little scrappy block. I'll just set that aside for the time being, and then we're going to go with this. How big should this be? However big you want it. So it can be a much larger square in the center of your block, or it can be a little square. It's really up to you. I would recommend going with whatever size scraps you have, right? Let that sort of be your guide. So I'm just going to kind of lay these out and see what I have, right? I have this kind of weird, I'm not going to be able to do something with this there. So I'm just going to cut that off. And that, I have a couple of other sort of weird little bits, so I'm just trimming this. Some of these are trimmings from other blocks, right? Just give myself a nice kind of straight edge. Oh, apologies, I forgot to turn off my notifications. So these are kind of my smallest ones, and you can use that, like your smallest ones can be your determining factor for how big you make everything else, right? I'm gonna play around. Maybe I just do that. And I'm just gonna kind of have it laid out in a way that I can go. And I want to just make sure I have all of my fabrics in here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, I have all 6. So that's given me the idea for how I want to go with it. I'm just gonna swap out, maybe I'll just flip that around. I think so. I want to have, I've got the lighter ones on this end and the darker ones on the outside. That way, against my busy fabric, I have a little bit more contrast so things show up. So this is just a rough layout. I've got to piece it together. It could change as I go. We'll just see. So typically when I'm starting with any kind of improv work like this, I need to start with my smallest pieces. These aren't sewn together and I need them to be a strip to sew all these together. So I'm going to just sew those into one piece. Oh, would help if I turned on my machine. Right, I know I want to sew these two together. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab them. Right, the one advantage, it's not something I often do with improv work, is laying it out like this. But the one advantage to doing it this way is that I can kind of chain piece because I can see what needs to be done, right? And I'm just going to finger press that one. I'll get my roller, my seam roller, just for efficiency's sake, to go there, right? And now I'm going to just keep adding. If I have uneven edges, I can take a ruler and a rotary cutter and cut myself a nice straight edge, right? Nice straight edge so it makes it nice and neat. Not only does it make it nice and neat, it makes it flatter when it comes time to putting the whole thing together, right? If we don't have a lot of extra bulk in our seam allowances, the whole thing lays better for us. So again, I have some overlaps. I'm just going to give myself a nice fresh cut there. So use your scraps as they've come to you, as you have them. right? If you need to cut new fabric because you don't have scraps, you know, just cut a few strips, one strip of each color or multiple strips, you know, you got options, right? So I have it like that. Do I want to, I think I'm going to do that. Yeah. So maybe I want to do the opposite. And I kind of like this sort of pieced section here. So we're going to keep that. I have too much here, so I'll just take my rotary cutter and cut it to length. Got nice, pretty straight edges there. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this one on, and then I'm going to do that kind of top and bottom piece. Right, there we go. Just press in whatever direction makes sense to you, right? So that it lays flat. I'm going to go like that, and then like that. I could, you know, add on the sides if I wanted to. Maybe I do like it that way. Yeah, maybe I do. I might not keep all that width, but I changed my mind. See, I reserve the right to change my mind. We all have that option. Okay. I'm not showing you the sewing because, well, it's just little straight seams. It really doesn't matter. I'm going for pressing direction kind of wherever it's going to lay the flattest in this. So even if that means sometimes going to the lighter one, I'm still going to go ahead with that. All right, let's sew this last one on. Now what you're making does not have to be a square. Even though if your blocks are squares, the piece that you make here does not have to be a square by any stretch of the imagination. It doesn't have to be a pure rectangle either. It's hard to say. So I'm going to give this, now that I've sewn it, I've been pressing it with this all along, I want to give that a good press with my machine before I square it up. This will just ensure that it's laying as flat as it possibly can. Okay, so we have that. I'm just going to take my ruler, see what size I can be. You know, if I could maybe do it on an angle, which could be kind of fun. If I go straighter, it's going to be a little bit narrower. It's really just up to you. I don't want quite this much of that gray, so I'm going to come in, say, to there. I'm actually going to line up that seam on that 1 1/4 inch mark, and that'll be sort of my determining factor for where everything is. So then across, holding my ruler, make sure I've got nice clean edges. And I'm going to flip that around and see how big it's going to be. So I can get 3 3/4. And do I want 6 inches? Sure, why not? Actually, I don't want 6 inches. That's too much of that white on the end. I'm going to go down to 5.5 inches. Right, so I still have some functional scraps and some trimmings here. Trimmings, I can just throw them out. I like to kind of clean as I go. There we go. So that's going to be my center portion. Just some fun scraps put together. Obviously not in rainbow order in this case, which is totally fine. You don't have to have it in rainbow order. I just wanted to make sure I had at least one piece of each of the fabrics. Obviously some of them I have more than one, but at least I have one. Now, let's get to assembling it. You can go the 2 sides and then the 2 tops, or you can go log cabin. It really, frankly, does not matter at all. I am just, you saw that, just eyeballing that length there. You can be more precise, but I would rather just eyeball it and not have to worry about lining everything up just so. This way I can just make sure that the seam is a nice straight one, and it just shifted on me. So I can make sure that my seam, this line, is straight, and then worry about matching up afterwards. And I don't have to match it up. I can trim it down. I'll show you what I mean. So you'll sew on, whichever order you put them in, you're sewing on one side at a time. It is going to be easier, whoops, sorry. It's going to be easier to press to the border or your background fabric. On my first one, I did not. I kind of wanted it to pop up. This one I don't mind because I won't, this is a busy fabric, so you won't see the seams. But frankly, it really doesn't matter. It's just a design decision of whether you want this center portion to recede a bit more or pop out a bit more. So you see now how this doesn't line up. There. I'm going to take this, and now, because I know that this part is a nice straight edge, then I can just trim the rest of it and get myself a nice straight edge. I'm not worried about the rest of it right now. I'm just going to do this part here. And then I'll do the same thing. I will eyeball what I might need and put that on. Now, while I'm sewing this, I did see a question come through from Jay Fritz. She says she's been watching and actually hope to start soon. Where do I go to get to the beginning, YouTube or Instagram? The answer is both. Now, with a caveat. On Instagram, one of the things that they have changed, to my great frustration, is you cannot save videos to a series anymore, which was really quite handy, because then I could just point you in the direction of the series and say, hey, go here because this is where the series is. But you can't do that anymore. So what you have to do on Instagram is either go to my grid, right, where you see the little squares of everything, and you will see, you'll have to scroll down to the beginning of January to see the first video, if you want to do it on Instagram. If you want to do it on YouTube, if you just search my name on YouTube, you'll find my channel. And then from there, I have every week laid out. So it will say week 1, week 2, week 3. All of the 2024 versions have, you know, a big orange square that says, you know, 2024 Adventure Sewalong, week 1, week 2, week 3, like that, which makes it a lot easier to find because Instagram changed that partway through this year, annoyingly. So, all right. Hope that helps, and I'm glad to see that you will be sewing. Make sure you post, share, tag me as you go on these. I love seeing what you do. Love being able to share what you do. Again, making that nice clean cut, trimming off a bit of that extra length from this because I wasn't measuring, I was just eyeballing. And if you are going to share your videos, or not your videos, although maybe you make a video, if you are going to share your blocks, don't forget to tag and use hashtags. You can tag me directly, and we have a number of hashtags that we're using. You can just go straight for Quilters Playcation. You can go QP Adventure Sewalong. You can go QP Adventure Sewalong 2024. Use all of them. Use one of them. And I try to check those out at least once a week, if not more often. Love to see what you folks are making using these free tutorials. You can also check out what everybody else is making and seeing all the beautiful fabric combinations that people have. Okay, last one. Just be careful when you are sewing over the little scrappy part that you don't flip any of your seam allowances. Obviously, it's not the end of the world if you do. It just will help your block lay flatter. See, I was not paying attention. I think I literally said that as I flipped one. Right? I flipped one here. There are some of us, I understand, who would go and change this and unpick and fix that. Oh my goodness, life is too short. What I will do is I will press it so that it kind of goes like that, where it's half on this one, half on the other one. You can even split that seam like that. Whatever way is going to make it the flattest without having you have to undo the seam, because oh my goodness, life's too short. We're doing improv work. A flipped seam is not the end of the world, not by any stretch of the imagination. So, yep, it went nicely. Pressed it like that. So my seam flipped, but I actually just kind of pressed it half open, and it's only at the ends, and it lays nice and flat. And now I'll press that last one. Now when I cut out my big strip of my background fabric, I didn't know how big that center portion was going to end up, so there's a lot extra there. If you have scraps of your background fabric, you could certainly use some of that. But now I need to trim this down. It's too big, too big. And I need to remind myself again, I have to do it every time, 9.5 inches. I had to check and see how big I'm making these blocks. So it's 9.5 inches, which means I have wiggle room both up and down. I could turn this on the angle a little bit if I wanted to, not too much. I don't have as much room for an angle, but I could do a little bit. But I'm going to keep her straight on, but I am going to skew it so that I've got kind of one side with more background than the other rather than center it. I did the first one centered. I'm going to do this one a little off center because I like that idea. And I'm going to do it off center on 2 sides like that. So again, I like to hold my ruler. You can see my thumb and my pinky, off so that my ruler can't slide. I make sure I can get 9.5 inches everywhere. And I'm right-handed, so I'm going from the bottom up and then from right to left, because that's just a really easy way for a right hand to work. Left hand, you would have it lined up on this corner and you would go up and over. So now I have these big pieces of background. I will keep them. You know they'll get used at some point. Flip that around and now line up 9.5 inches here, 9.5 inches here. Of course, if you are one of the folks who is not making these square, like I know Michelle is not, or not making them a standard size, you can skip this part, or you can just trim it without squaring it up. So there we have it. There is week 11. Kind of fun, right? Pretty straightforward and simple. Just making sure there is no other questions there. But we have week 11. Really fast, easy block today. I'm going to move you back up and flip you around. We will say goodbye to the ladies for today. Hello. And I'm going to put this block with the other ones. So there we go. Week 11. She's coming together really nicely. I'm pretty happy with how this is coming together. I just mentioned Michelle. If you haven't seen her stuff, she's at Michelle Fiber Arts, I think. I will repost some stuff later this week. She's done some really interesting things because she's not making her blocks the same size. And so she's done a monochromatic with the addition of color like I've done here. But she's kind of transitioning, right? So she's done blue, forget what color she's on now, maybe purple. And so she's going to really do some fun stuff. So check her out. Check out everybody. Terry for Daisy says, nice. I too can use fast and easy right now. Yeah, sometimes it's just that kind of a day, that kind of a week. I get it. I absolutely get it. I am really looking forward to some kind of, it's a little bit brainless. I'm going to quilt tonight. My husband is going to the third of 4 hockey games this week that we had tickets for. I didn't want to go because I've already been to 2 and I'm going to one tomorrow for sure for my son's birthday. I was like, I don't want to go. Take a friend. So he is taking our friend. And they will go. And that means I have not guilt-free, but where I quilt is right beside the TV, and I don't like to quilt if he's watching TV, just to be polite. He says he doesn't care, but I just don't feel comfortable doing it. But this way I'll be able to go blast my music, quilt all evening until my shoulders give out. And that will be nice and easy because it's just straight line. So for what I have planning. And then the other thing I'm hoping to do tonight or tomorrow is I actually have last year's abstract Adventure Sewalong finished. I finished the quilting. I need to get the binding on. I'm actually going to face it. I've never done it, but feels like it's time to try. But I need to get that on so I can do the hand stitching part. Haven't had my sewing room for the past few weekends, so have it. So those are my 2 goals this week, is a little bit of play time and then some dedicated head down kind of sewing. And I feel like that ability to go between playing and concentration is exactly what my brain needs right now. So looking forward to it. I hope you are looking forward to it. I hope you have a wonderful week. If you are local to the Calgary area, enjoy the snow because we're getting it for the next few days. Big dump of snow right as it's almost all melted. That's how it goes. So yeah, enjoy the snow. Just more excuse to make hot cocoa and light some candles and stay inside and quilt, right? There are worse things in the world. Definitely. So have a wonderful week, everybody. Remember, you can catch me live every week here on Instagram. I will save all of these videos to YouTube. You can find them in both places. Instagram requires a little bit more digging, but it is there. Or you can go straight to YouTube, and I usually put the videos up within a few days, just depending on how life goes. So have a great night, great afternoon, a great morning. Really enjoy you all. Have fun playing. Take care.